right, Trendsetter, I'm really excited about this interview. We're here, IWF Loud.
We're always excited for every interview.
No, this is a good one, man. We have a legendary ring announcer, Gary Cappetta.
Ouch.
You don't like the legendary?
Well, it just builds me up. I mean, builds me up, there's only one place to go.
Well, larger than life, living legend, but then Larry Zbyszko might be upset that I used that.
There you go.
So, you're very associated with IWF Kevin Knight. You have like a friendship also too with Dave LaGreca. Just talk about that. What brings you here to Nutley, New Jersey tonight for Loud and Proud?
Well, in addition to supporting Kevin, it's also for the charity. Mm-hmm. People don't realize how many wrestling promotions support charities, local community groups. And I think it's important for all of us to give back. Kevin has been great. He hosted 2 of my stage shows in Asbury Park, New Jersey, and in New York City.
Beyond Body Slams?
Yeah. He and Dave LaGreca. So, we've formed a friendship, and it's been great. A great deal of fun.
So talk about your stage show. It's Beyond Body Slams, and you go back on the road May 19th in Richmond.
You've done your homework.
Oh, I'm telling you, you have to.
My
for
goodness.
Gary? Hell, of course.
Yes.
Talk about that.
Beyond Body Slams takes my book Body Slams, and on stage I talk about a lot of the better stories that are in the book. The zanier stories, like the night Mick Foley lost his ear in Munich, Germany, and they tossed it to me. Or the night in England where Sid Vicious, Arn Anderson got into a bloody brawl in the hotel.
Yes. The scissors fiasco, is that?
That's right.
Yeah.
I just so happened that my room was right across from Arn Anderson's room. So I find myself in the middle of these situations that aren't so safe. And I'm hoping today isn't going to be one of them. Because, the Jersey Wrecking Crew doesn't sound like a lovable kind of situation.
No, but we respect the business.
Of course.
We respect our
and anybody's got to go through you has got to go through us.
Exactly. So you're part of the crew now, the Jersey Wrecking Crew.
Oh, that's cool.
Especially being a Jersey native. Talk about being a Jersey native. Talk about the backdrop of New York City. What kind of cities for you were always special to go to? Of course, New York is one, but
New York.
What other cities are
I grew up in Kearney, New Jersey. Not too far from here. We're in Nutley.
Yeah.
I used to go to concerts a lot. So the Capitol Theater in Passaic. Now, the thing, I hate talking about these kind of things because these venues don't exist anymore. You know what I'm saying? I could be talking about Roman gladiators. And, well, the Coliseum does exist.
The Coliseum still does exist, though.
The Arlo,
barely, but it's still there.
There might be a show there you might want to.
The Arlo Theater in Camden doesn't exist anymore. Yeah. One place that does exist, because I worked with Gorilla Monsoon, so I went to all kinds of local. We would do Fort Dix. We would do all the convention halls in Asbury Park, in Wildwood, in Atlantic City. We would do all the armories in North Jersey, Elizabeth Armory, Patterson Armory, like those places. They're still there. But as far as on a personal side, I used to go to New York, to the Village, the Bitter End. I saw, for instance, like Barry Manilow before he was Barry Manilow.
For Copacabana.
Yeah, I mean, there were like 30 of us sitting around a piano, and he was performing.
Wow.
Like that was really cool. Bette Midler, before she became very famous, I went to see her in Lincoln Center one New Year's Eve. It was really cool. But because we were in the neighborhood, Northern Jersey, just a hop, skip, and a jump away from New York City. Those of us that live in this area to today, a lot of us don't appreciate that we have so many theaters with concerts where you have a choice of 5 or 6 every weekend.
Yes,
it's amazing. True. You can go from one end of New Jersey to the other end and see the finest talent from the Prudential Center, a huge place, to let's say Bergen Performing Arts Center. We have performing arts centers in just about every county.
Yes, well, that's true. I mean, speaking of variety, though, something that Jeff and I have always talked about is the fact that, I felt like in 2017 there's a huge boom in professional wrestling research is because with social media and the internet, there's so much accessibility now, so much content out there for people to watch. Maybe similar to the territory days, but in this sense, you have more of a global feed where anybody from anywhere can see it at any time. What have you seen in terms of, do you think it's been a benefit to the business in terms of, with all the ability of the access of Twitter and social media? I mean, we've spoken to performers, they enjoy it, they like it because they're able to brand themselves.
More of a benefit than a detriment. The benefit is it's convenient.
Yes.
You can sit home and you can see whatever you want from anywhere in the world. The negative side of it is to get people out. to get people away from their computers or their mobile devices, and to actually get out to see, for instance, my Beyond Body Slam stage show. They can go online and they can listen to shoot interviews all day and all night long.
Yeah.
So that's why I offer something that's over and above that at my stage show, where you're seeing giant video as I'm talking about situations. We have footage that I show that's really rare, that are like camcorders that weren't captured by the WWE or the NWA or AWA or any.
So it's like your stuff, and you're putting it out there. It's like your personal pictures that you're putting out there.
Exactly. I have video, for instance, from that was taken on the bus while we were touring in Europe.
Oh, okay.
With Ricky Steamboat and Dustin Rhodes and Sting and Rick Rude. So it's really behind the scenes stuff that I've never put out before.
When you're doing a show, because of course a lot of stage shows now, you've got Jim Ross, you've got something to wrestle with their shows. Sometimes they do when WWE is in town. What are you trying to be different? What are you trying to do? What can the fan expect when they go to one of your shows?
It's a stage show. It's not a Q&A. Although we do a Q&A at the end of after the stage show.
Okay.
I hang out and answer any questions that people have. But it's a set piece. It's got to be a set piece because I've got my video on a reel. So I know it's like a wrestling match.
Yeah.
I know where I need to get to, and how I get there every night is different. So that I know that one of my topics is Andre the Giant. I know that I'm going to be speaking about Andre the Giant early in the night, but I may offer. I knew Andre so well. I may tell you different stories in Richmond, Virginia, than I may tell you in Baltimore, Maryland.
Well,
so it just depends.
Speaking of Andre the Giant, how did you feel about the documentary that came out on HBO?
I did not see it.
Oh, okay.
But I did hear a lot about it. And one thing that I thought was very interesting was I was listening to an interview that one of the producers of that show did. And he said one of the more difficult things was not to accept all of the information that was out there, but to actually do their own research, because a lot of the information that we just take for granted, people believe, but it's not necessarily accurate.
For embellished a little bit.
Yeah.
Like the myths of Andre's drinking and all that
Well,
stuff.
no, that was real. No, that was real.
Good, so you heard it here. It was real. Those 106 beers were real.
The only one that could drink the Nature Boy under the table.
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about, for instance, he wasn't born in Grenoble, France.
No.
And I always introduced him as being from the French Alps, So therefore, I thought that was interesting. But from everything I heard, people really enjoyed it.
What do you think, knowing Andre the way you did, what do you think is the biggest, misconception or something that people might not know that you'd want to get out there if, for example, the film didn't put it out there, that you would maybe on your stage show do, or something that you want to reinforce just for his legacy?
How difficult his life was.
Yes.
How difficult it was for someone of his size to be traveling all the time. Think about it, where you'd never have an airline seat that fit. Maybe you had to buy 2 tickets. Yeah. You never had a bed in a hotel that fit. Whenever you walked through an airport, people were gawking at you. If you wanted to take a shower in the hotel, you couldn't stand underneath a nozzle. You had to hunch. He had to hunch over. To do it. So many things that were really inconvenient. And toward the end, he was in a lot of pain. I was with him for his last U.S. TV appearance, which was on WTBS at the time, where they celebrated 20 years of NWA on TBS. And after the show, we had an after party, and he and Bruno Sammartino were sitting at the bar, and we had our picture taken together. And I should have it here because I didn't know you were going to ask the question, but I use it as one of my tour pictures.
Oh, okay.
Of Bruno and Andre and myself. So, and he passed. That was in September, and of I want to say '92, and he passed away that January. So it was his last. It wasn't the last time he was in public, but his last TV appearance.
It's funny how Jeff and I, even prior to this, after we saw the documentary, we were talking about the fact that it's funny how, we have a lot of discussions with other fans and talent about, what's your Mount Rushmore? Everybody likes to ask that question. And very rarely does Andre's name ever get mentioned. Have you had conversations in terms of, it's always Hogan, Ric Flair, might be The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, but Andre never seems to be mentioned.
Andre, whose mountain Andre is on?
His own.
No, I wouldn't know that.
He has his own mountain.
No, Vince McMahon.
Vince McMahon.
Yeah, Vince McMahon was asked that question, and he put Andre up there.
Oh, yeah.
I would imagine too, because if you thought about it, like in the documentary they say that Andre like made Hogan. Andre, that WrestleMania 3, and we just went through a WrestleMania, and now 31 years later from WrestleMania 3. Just talk about the significance of that match. Is there a WrestleMania? Well, without WrestleMania 1, but without that Andre Hogan match, is it anywhere near the level that WrestleMania is today?
That's an impossible question to answer, because let's say that didn't happen in WrestleMania 3, maybe something else would have happened in WrestleMania 4. That would have it was a slow build through the years. I mean, that was huge, just because the venue was large, right? Because WrestleMania 1, wasn't that at the Garden?
The Garden.
Was WrestleMania 2 at the 3 different venues?
Yeah, different locations.
Right,
Yeah.
so they were 15 to 20,000 seaters. So that was the first, right? They say 90,000.
Yeah.
93,000. It could, numbers sometimes get, massaged a little bit too, but one of their largest venues to date, which needed an event like that. So, yeah, it's a good question to ask, or a hard one, a difficult one to answer, for the mere fact that, if that doesn't happen, who knows what happens at this time. Maybe WrestleMania 4 or 5 would have been different, though.
Yeah, and Andre transcends wrestling. If a lot of younger people know Andre through his film work, The Princess Bride, for instance. So, he's in a category all by himself.
For example, we are again in the backdrop of New York City, and you've done a lot of shows for WWE when it was at the Meadowlands. Talk about some of your memories from the Meadowlands, and talk about how excited it was when
Those were exciting
Brendan
events at
Byrne
the
to us and the Continental
Arena,
closed down.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is something that it wasn't that special when I did it, but it's a video that's gone viral online. Was the night that I announced that Ric Flair was not going to be there that night in the main event, and that in fact he was no longer with WCW. And there was a fan that had a camcorder, and you hear the audience like whisper and talk about it, and it was an extended announcement, because it also affected an upcoming pay-per-view. So I had to tell them who was going to be replacing him in the pay-per-view. And I got booed. I got, pelted with things.
Oh, and you're just the
messenger.
Right. And
so much for don't killing the messenger.
And more often than not, people would say, "Oh, Gary, you must have hated it." It's like, no, I loved it. I loved it because it was a challenge. It was giving me an opportunity to show how to give the fans bad. I often had to give fans bad news. For instance, if Ricky and Robert Gibbs, the Rock and Roll Express, couldn't make a show, I had to go out at the beginning of the night and tell the fans in Baltimore or Pittsburgh or wherever we were that was not going to happen. And there's a technique to it. So it gave me, it brought me to life. I loved it.
Yeah.
I didn't get hurt, so that was helpful.
Yes, that's always good.
Also at the Meadowlands was the night that Stan Hansen beat Rick Martel for the AWA World Heavyweight Championship. That was a pretty big night. I interviewed Hansen after the show, after the match, and I almost lost my front teeth because he didn't. Oh. He just wanted to talk. Yeah. So I asked him a question. I held the mic out. I go for another question, and he just grabs it, and the mic hit me like I swallowed the mic.
Wow.
Yeah, those are little things that happen. It's part of the job.
It's part of the job.
What a trooper! What a trooper is Gary Cappetta. One final one for me, Gary, is the business now. Name something that you like about it now and something that you don't like about right now.
One thing that I like about it is what you've described before about being able to see all different promotions online. Mm-hmm. I also like the success of Cody. I like the success of the Young Bucks because that makes them truly independent, like independent contractors. It's not a corporate entity that's controlling. If they want to at any point go to the WWE, they're at a more equal level in negotiating. Yeah. That I really like. What I don't like is the groupthink. So that when someone's introduced, I'm just going to take SmackDown Raw for instance. Everybody chants the same thing. Everybody's hands go up in the air at the same time. there's like no individuality.
Yes.
It's more of a festival or a concert feel, and it takes away the individual experience of a fan feeling the emotion of what's going on. People know so much that they're using their heads. They're not reacting to a match with their heart and their gut. And
That's very true.
You know, and I think that's unfortunate. I don't know how you turn that around. It can be. I mean, if you have two wrestlers that know what they're doing, they can break that in the middle of their match and get you into it so that you're feeling about what's going on. But these chants, you know, that was awesome. And
You deserve it, yeah.
it's like, I even hate that. Listen to me. I shouldn't be hitting the wrecking crew.
Exactly. Especially when you have your back for tonight's festivities.
I especially don't like, that people just like when I go to a concert, don't tell me to sing along.
Yes.
Don't tell me to sway and put my hands up.
That has to annoy you when they're singing the lyric that you want to hear them sing, and they stick the microphone out for the crowd to sing.
Right. Don't light me up. Don't light the like. I paid my $65. I want to hear you. So I say I don't go along. I'm not a joiner.
No, that's true. And there's so many
Exactly.
people that are joiners. One last one for me, Gary. Thank you so much for your time. Is that Jeff was touching base on it in terms of, you know, and you mentioned so much content out there as we brought up the question of social media and the internet. But, you know, when I look at productions and when you were just talking about the audience feeling it internally rather than just going along with what everybody says, first thing that pops in my mind is Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho and what they did at WrestleCon 12. I mean, with
Wrestle Kingdom.
Wrestle Kingdom 12, stand corrected. With something like that, I mean, we all know WWE's this huge juggernaut. It's the number one company out there. It has so much momentum behind it. But do you see a company like New Japan, possibly, maybe a Ring of Honor, vying for that number 2 spot, maybe even getting close to the days where we had WCW and WWE compete with each other?
Absolutely. Sure, I can see that. I mean, WWE is so far ahead.
Yeah.
I mean that, but I can see that. I can see them being very successful organizations, not on the same level, just because they're years behind, developing that. But I hope for it because it's the best thing for the wrestlers. It's the best thing for the fans. Give them an alternate. Like if they don't buy into the WWE product, which I find entertaining, I just don't tune in expecting to see an NWA show.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm not an old guy who says, "Oh, everything in the past was great and everything today is not." Not at all. I mean, the athletes today, the wrestlers today are so much more athletic. I mean, they're cardio, but I fear for them because they're so reckless sometimes.
They're trying to outdo each other, or they're trying to just, for the moment, they're trying to get that crowd reaction.
Yes, and they take risks. And what they're doing, I fear, is shortening the length of their career.
Completely agree.
I don't want to see that happen because I care about them as individuals. But the success that the Bucks have had, that Cody has had, the Bullet Club, it's and many others whose names I'm still learning. I'm excited for that, and the industry needs to evolve. But there are certain ways where I would say no, not that way. For instance, if it's not logical, it shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
I think too often what's forgotten is the whole idea is 2 or 4 people get into the ring and the whole idea is to beat their opponent.
Yeah.
It's not to just flip.
Yeah.
If you want to hear a little example?
Please.
You have the time?
We have the time.
Okay. For instance, here's something that makes no sense to me.
Okay.
A guy, his opponent is on the floor, and he climbs to the top of the turnbuckle, and he's facing inside inside the ring, and he flips backwards onto his opponent.
Yeah.
Now, why would you do that?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I can understand getting up to the top, and with the velocity, and you'd have more power when the impact happens, but you're going to want to see where you're going.
Yeah.
And for the guy on the floor, I would just walk away and let him crash on the floor.
Some logicalness, right?
Right.
To it,
You need logic.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't make any sense. If it doesn't make any sense, then you're taking away, oh, but Gary, it sells. Oh, but Gary, the fans like it.
It gets a reaction, so they keep doing it.
But you know what? Those aren't good answers. So does Daffy Duck get a reaction.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's
Especially
not
walking
pro
around
wrestling.
no pants on.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Exactly.
That's not pro wrestling.
Yeah. No, I'm actually a fan of the story. I want to buy into the story. And the story, if it's a good story, then the match will sell. You know what I mean? So I love the build for, the Cody Kenny, for example. That build was slow build on the internet.
It's beautiful.
And then you had a payoff. Well, of course, sort of a payoff at Supercard, this past week. And you're like, wow, you know what I mean? That was probably the match of the weekend, and it was like it was built up, the storyline, and you're invested in it, and you're rooting at Team Kenny and at Team Cody. That's what sells me.
And that would be something, Jeff, that I would say that is something I feel is missing within my enjoyment of it is the long build. I think nowadays we're so impatient, we want instant gratification, that sometimes when storylines do progress longer, people get impatient, they want the payoff, but when it's worth it with an event like that, it's completely worth the wait.
Now, here's something else about that particular scenario. We have to give props to the promotions and the promoters because that storyline was carried through different promotions. Yeah. When was the last time that ever happened? See, so those guys on their own wouldn't have been able to do that. Yeah. There would have been a delay in between Ring of Honor shows or New Japan Pro Wrestling shows, but they've been given the freedom and the independence to build between, like, wherever they go. Yeah. So that, and hats off to them that they're trusted with that. But usually a promotion wouldn't allow it, but it's paid off for everybody.
It has.
We are, again, Gary, thank you so much for your time. Gary Cappetta, ladies and
Appreciate
gentlemen, legendary ring announcer for WWE, WCW, and ROH2.
You guys have to come out to my stage show.
When it comes back to New Jersey on the 25th?
Yes. Oh, this guy does his homework.
25th, yes.
Atlantic
City. It's the 25th of August.
August.
Atlantic City.
Atlantic City. And definitely, I want to go see that.
Let me lay it out for you.
Yeah.
I'll be in Richmond May 19th. I'll be, real quick, I'll do this quick. I'll be in Baltimore on July the 6th, Friday night. Then I'll be in Scranton, Pennsylvania on August 4th. You didn't think I knew all this stuff, did you? August 25th, I'll be at the Claridge Hotel in Atlantic City. Then we get to September and fly out to Chicago. And that's Friday night, the 21st. And then October, I think that's a 6th.
You'll be in Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh. He knows where I'm going to be better than I do. And then I'm going to WrestleCade.
Winston-Salem.
Winston-Salem. Yes. Was that the 23rd? 3rd. Okay, November 23rd. For all my brothers and sisters down in the southern states.
See, we know where Gary's going to be. You guys, you got to go check him out.
Gary, thank you so much.
We're going to quiz the audience.
Yes. Gary, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for not hurting me.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate you didn't hurt me tonight.
No. Thank you.